Welcome back to Passiflora Studio. We're going to be in the studio today creating a DIY seasonal summer centerpiece. So I've gone out to my garden and I've picked some blooms that I think will be perfect to represent a summer centerpiece. Very easy for anyone to do. You just need some flowers, whether they're from your garden or from a friend's garden. Either will work. So what we're going to be using today is Japanese maple. I think it looks very lovely with the fuchsia color and the blue. We have some delphinium and some peonies from up north, and then some beautiful hydrangeas picked fresh this morning from my garden. Blues, a little hint of purple, some pink, a wild sweet pea that grows on the edge of the road. Who can resist that? And some gorgeous yellow nasturtium, which I think will pick up beautifully with the center of the peonies. So we're going to be using this beautiful rustic vase from Accent Decor. And the first thing we're going to do is cut a piece of chicken wire. This is green coated chicken wire. You can use silver chicken wire, but I prefer the coated. And we're just going to kind of crumple it up, make it into a shape that will fit into the bowl. It doesn't have to be pretty. We're just giving the stems a place to go through so that they don't fall out of the pot when you're building the centerpiece. So it's okay if it looks like that. We're going to put it inside the vase, let it do its thing in there, maybe pull it out a little bit here and there. And then make sure the outside of your vase is dry before you add your floral clear tape. We're going to be creating an X over the top of the vase with our clear tape that is serving the purpose of just holding in our chicken wire. After you make the cross, you're going to want to make sure that tape doesn't go anywhere, and you're going to put a piece of tape around the top, which will hold that tape in. And I didn't make it quite long enough, so I'll add another piece of tape there. So when I'm building centerpieces for weddings, I like to have them elevated. It's much easier to visualize how it's going to look on the table because this is how people are going to be viewing it. As opposed to sitting looking down on top. I had used an old French bucket and a turntable that I think I bought at TJ Maxx, and I'm gonna put this on top. The turntable is nice because it lets you view your centerpiece from all angles. The centerpiece we're making today is going to be more spread out to go with the length of the table. You can create a centerpiece that's more round if you have a round table, something a little more oblong. There are all kinds of options with your base and with your centerpiece. So we're going to begin with our maple foliage, and we're going to start building the shape of our centerpiece. So we're just using the greenery to get the shape of our centerpiece. Try to kind of, like I've said in some of my previous tutorials, the armature. So we've got a nice little structure happening there. And I'm just gonna keep clipping off some of these maple leaves and adding them around the back because we don't really want it to be one-sided. So we'll fill in with these little pieces of maple. It's nice to have them coming over the edge there. Here's a nice big piece, and I may put that over here. The nice thing about centerpieces is you don't have to be married to that spot. Just because you put it there does not mean that it has to stay. And sometimes they have a mind of their own. You kind of want to go with the idea of what the flower is telling you to do or what the foliage is telling you to do. I don't know if that was the best spot. I'm going to try back here. I kind of like that a little bit better. So we're going to stick with that. We'll keep adding to it to create our structure. Don't be afraid to be loose with it. Everything doesn't have to be bunched up together. We're just gonna add a couple more pieces of foliage in the front where there's the hole. And you can use different types of foliage. I chose to just use two. I have the sweet peas and the maple, but I could have added honeysuckle. There are all kinds of options. So I think we have the basic structure. And the next thing we're going to want to add is our focal flower. I've chosen a peony as the focal flower. And the focal flower usually rests almost on the vase, on the edge of the vase. And it can be off center a little bit. It doesn't have to be right in the middle. So I think we'll add 3 peonies. A lot of people like to work in 3s and 5s when they're designing. It's not 100% necessary. Some of my favorite arrangements have been ones that just have a 1 of peeked in there somewhere. I'm gonna put this one up a little bit higher if if I can get it in there. Sometimes you need more flowers in there to get them to stand up. And then I will add one more just to balance it out on this side. A good rule of thumb to think about when designing centerpieces too is a rule called the golden ratio, and it's a 3-5-8 design that can actually be seen in nature and so many of the designs that we love. It's very pleasing to the eye. I'm loving how the burgundy foliage accents the fuchsia and the peonies. I think next we're going to add some hydrangeas. Make sure when you're adding your flowers that you remove the bottom bits of foliage. You don't want those to be in the water, because that is the thing that actually makes the flowers die the fastest, is getting bacteria in the water. Also, when designing these centerpieces, think about different layers, that not all the flowers are going to be on the same plane. You want them, some to be sticking out further, some to be more nestled in, and maybe leaving a bit of a resting spot in the middle for a good place for the eye to travel through the centerpiece. If everything is on the same plane, it makes it a little less interesting. When you're picking flowers from the garden, you might have some foliage that looks a little bug-eaten. Just pull it off. It's not a problem. Or maybe it's a little brown. Just trim off any of the bad. There we go. This might be almost too small, but I'm gonna actually nestle it in to the centerpiece. It will be touching water. We're gonna start adding some flowers to the back here to give it, again, some more dimension. I think we'll nestle in a couple more flowers in the middle. I can see that I want to add a little more foliage for height because I've kind of lost my height here. I think I will add this to try to get that structure back. The next thing we're gonna add to the centerpiece to kind of give it a final oomph is the wild sweet pea and the really beautiful nasturtium vine. So kind of the more whimsical flowers I like to add last. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of finessing to get everything in just the right way. I'm cutting this, even though he's a little cracked there, I think it's gonna be okay. And I'm adding this wonderful sweet pea stem kind of to the edge because I like the way it looks sort of hanging off like a panicle of grapes or something. And kind of repeating that up there. Next, we're going to add the balance of the sweet pea vine on the other side to just balance what we have going on up here. Always keep in mind when you're doing this how your guests are going to be viewing the piece. And then I think to complete it, we will just add a couple delphiniums. Again, I think I'm going to use 3 just to try to balance it. And when you're putting the flowers in, I don't really like that foliage. I feel like it detracts from the delicacy of the delphinium, so I just removed that. And then maybe one more just to cover up that stem to the peony. I love these little tiny pieces, so we'll nestle those in with that panicle of sweet pea. The last thing that I will be adding to the centerpiece are these just beautiful nasturtiums from my garden that I grew from seed. These are from Floret, and I mean, that's just gorgeous. And I love the way that this yellow is going to really make the anthers on the peonies pop. The last piece of nasturtium that we're going to add, I think we'll do it right over here to carry the eye from the upper piece up here down to the side, and also have it next to the peony. It's a nice bridge flower. And I think we've completed our summer seasonal DIY centerpiece. Joining me in the studio today. Please subscribe to Passiflora Studio and keep your eye out for more floral design DIY tutorials.